please put it together for Our Greatest Challenge by Nate Schimmel.
What if you found out you had an incurable disease and only days left to live? Would you have regrets? Are you honestly willing to ask yourself this question? Are you living the life you were born to live? Living on purpose right now? If the answer is no, you are not alone. In a study of the dying, a nurse recorded the top regrets of those on their deathbed. And what the dying regretted most was having lived a life not true to themselves. So how is it that we end up with regret over the life that we are living or have lived? Unfortunately, we fall victim to the pressures of society, the expectations of our parents, siblings, and other influencers. And then we make decisions in our daily lives to please those outside of ourselves. And whether that's to gain approval, to be accepted, to fit in, or to make them proud. But the result is an unfulfilled life at the deepest level. Realize that the conflict that exists in your life is because you are not living true to yourself. And to avoid this, we must live a life true to ourselves. But be warned, this is a challenging, scary, and uncomfortable act. So how do we live a life true to ourselves? We start by identifying the two false guides that lead us astray. The first is the myth of achievement. When I was younger, I thought that society's definition of success would make me happy. The good grades, fancy resume, top schools, and then off to climb the ladder, destined for the top. Rung after rung I climbed, chasing achievement, and it left me empty and burned out. It's at this point in my life that I realized that success without fulfillment is failure. That success without fulfillment is failure. This leads me to my second false guide, and that is expectations. That is living the life that others think we need to live. Too many of us just play the part. We fall in line, and we stick to the approved script. Silent, we fail to stand our ground. And far too often, it is those who love us most that project their own fears and failures onto us. And unfortunately, we allow them to persuade us to stay small and to stick to the script. My favorite quote from Steve Jobs really sums this up for me. He says, "Don't waste your time living someone else's life. And don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the opinions of others drown out your own inner voice. And most importantly, have the courage to follow your own heart and intuition, for they somehow already know who you truly want to become." So how should we use and what should our guide be to living a life true to ourselves? Fear. Our guide is fear. What we most want to do and what we are most afraid to do. Ask yourself, what is it that I'm dying to do but terrified to try? Because this is what you must do to live your most fulfilled life. I know that living this fulfilled life is what scares us because it means different. It requires us to step outside of our comfort zone and to take a risk. But we must learn to embrace our fear if we are to be fulfilled. For me, my biggest fear was starting the Big Red Challenge. The Big Red Challenge is a nonprofit organization that supports veterans in transition to civilian life through challenge, service, and community. Starting the Big Red Challenge was the scariest thing I've done because it was the first time that I dared to follow my heart and pursue my dream. But what Big Red Challenge has taught me, and may be helpful for you, is that our greatest fear isn't the fall, but what we fear most is taking flight. You see, often we fear the new and the unfamiliar, even if it's better. But by punching through our fear, only then can we move to greater things. My choice to embrace my fear has enabled me to live a life true to myself, and most importantly, made a difference in the lives of others. Now, I want you to imagine that you are writing your life story. In this moment, you can determine where it will go. Will you stick with a plot, or is there a new direction you want it to take? Where are you not living a life true to yourself? Maybe it's in a relationship with your family, or in your job or career. But this is your story, and you only get one, so be damn sure that you are the author of your life, the impact you want to have, and the legacy that you want to leave. This is my challenge, your challenge, and our challenge. And as the poet Atticus said, the hardest step we must all take is to blindly trust in who we are. So take that step, follow your heart, and do what scares the hell out of you. This is how we live a life true to ourselves. Thank you.